What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I want to go ahead and do another installment of this NBA draft series. I want to try to go ahead and knock this out before the start of the NBA season. I may not finish before the start of the NBA season. But I do want to go ahead and try to knock these out. So just do a brief recap. At number 10, I had the 1998 draft. And at number 9, I had the following year, the 1999 draft. So at number 8, I have the 2009 draft. Now, of course, the 2009 draft had a lot of notable players. But I think the most notable and the most successful has been Steph Curry. All right, which may have been I think probably a bit of a surprise if you go back to 2009 and you make this, if you were to go back to 2009, June 25th, 2009, when this draft was held, and say that Steph would be the most successful. I don't think a lot of people would have taken that bet. Not that he wasn't a good player, but I don't think that people would have thought that he would have been first ballot, potential top 10 or top 15 type player. But the NBA Draft 2009 was held back on June 25th, 2009 at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Now, of course, for those of you all who are Michael Jackson fans, that date is very memorable, etched in our memories, because that's the day that he passed away. Matter of fact, I don't even remember this draft because the Michael Jackson news just totally overwhelmed media. Now, it was back on May 19th of 2009 that the Clippers won the draft lottery and were the number one pick, and number one selection, I should say, and they picked Blake Griffin, who was projected to be the best player of that draft. Now, he's going to have a fine career, but I wouldn't call his career Hall of Fame worthy. But that's just me. All right. As I said, this draft was held in Madison Square Garden in New York City. And when you look at this particular draft, there were a lot of notable players who've gone on to have either stellar careers or maybe even Hall of Fame careers. Blake Griffin was number one, and I would say that he's had a stellar career. He was, a 5-time All-Star? 4, 5, 6-time All-Star, something like that. So, like I said, I don't think that he's a Hall of Famer, but he has had a stellar career. Number 2 was Hasheem Thabeet, who was selected by the Memphis Grizzlies, and he's been out the league, and I will have to say he's a bust. Number 3 was James Harden, selected by Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, James Harden still plays today. He plays at a high level. He's a former MVP, multiple-time All-Star, has led the league in scoring, has had some unbelievable scoring seasons, has led the NBA in assists. And he's a remarkable player. But as great as he's been, and he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, you just get the impression that he should have been even greater than what he is, because of the fact that, you get the feeling that he's not as, I'm not saying he doesn't work hard at times, but you get the impression that James Harden doesn't give his all to basketball. He's not obsessed with basketball. Basketball isn't the same passion for him that, it might have been for a guy like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Larry Bird or even Magic Johnson, even though Magic had his extracurricular activities as well. And the fact that Harden just has a penchant for being a choke artist. At number 4, you have Tyreke Evans, who had one of the great rookie seasons. He was selected by the Sacramento Kings back in 2009. Tyreke Evans, I don't believe plays in the NBA right now. He most recently played in the NBA back in 2018, 2019. He plays overseas right now, but he did try out a couple of years ago for the Milwaukee Bucks, and I want to say it might have been the Grizzlies or the Pacers. Or I know he tried out for a couple of teams, but he just didn't make the cut. Had a great career starting out, but did not sustain it, and also had some substance abuse issues. Ricky Rubio was fifth, selected by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now Ricky Rubio, I think he currently plays for the Cavaliers. When you look at his resume, he's an interesting case, and this is why I say he's an interesting case. If you're talking about NBA Hall of Famer, that's a no-go. Though he will be remembered as one of the better Minnesota Timberwolves players. But I'm trying to look at his age right now. Let me see something. What is he? 32. He's a lot younger than I thought he would be. He has a chance, though. As weird as this sounds, he could go into the Hall of Fame as an international player. Now, I'll tell you why. Because if you look at his total resume, he's an NBA All-Rookie First Team, right? EuroLeague champion 2010, Euro Cup champion 2008. I think it's Liga ACB champion 2011. 2 times Copa del Rey winner, FIBA Euro Challenge champion, Mr. Europa Player of the Year, EuroLeague Rising Star, Liga ACB Defensive Player of the Year 2009, Liga ACB Most Spectacular Player 2010, 2-time All-Liga ACB Team, ACB Rising Star Award 2007, 3 times FIBA Young Player of the Year, FIBA World Cup MVP back in 2019, All FIBA World Cup Team 2019, FIBA Europe Under 16 Championship MVP back in 2006. And representing Spain in the Olympics, he won the silver with Beijing back in 2008 and the bronze with Rio de Janeiro back in 2016. World Cup, won the gold in 2019 with China, and Eurobasket, gold 2009 in Portland, gold 2011 Lithuania, bronze in 2013 Slovenia, and bronze in 2017 in Turkey. So when you look at his international resume, he could go down as an as a basketball Hall of Famer as far as the international side of things. So that's definitely a case for him in that. Let's look at the rest of it. Johnny Flynn, I don't even remember this guy. Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry was the 7th pick out of Davidson for the Warriors, of course. And, I mean, what do we have to say about Steph? 4-time NBA champion, 2-time league MVP, finals MVP finally a couple of years ago in a series against the finals against the Celtics. 3-point champion. Holds the record for most three-pointers made in a season. Most three-pointers made in a career. The only guy still so far to make over 3,000 threes in a career. Exceptional shooting. Shoots over 47%, close to 48% for his career. Overall, 42+% from downtown for his career. Highest career free throw percentage ever for a career. Statistically, as a case for the greatest shooter ever. I mean, what do you have to say? I mean, what more can you say about Steph Curry, man? The greatest shooter. His game has probably had more impact, more influence on anybody playing the game in decades. Steph Curry, I think it's pretty much unanimous that he has been the most impactful player in that draft. At number 8, you have Jordan Hill, who was drafted to the New York Knicks out of Arizona. I barely remember Jordan Hill. Last time he played in the NBA was about 6 years ago. Number 9 in that draft was DeMar DeRozan. Drafted out of USC, drafted to the Toronto Raptors, and then, of course, DeMar DeRozan, of course, has had a very, very good career. And, when you look at his accolades, 6-time NBA All-Star, 2-time All-NBA second-team player, All-NBA third team 2017, that's not all that great, man. Right? It's not. But there's something that, you have to look at. Of course, he also won Olympic gold in 2016 in Rio de Janeiro, and the World Cup 2014 in Spain won gold. But the thing that you got to look at is the over 21,000 career points. He's going to add to that total this year. He's still not that old of a player, 34. So he could conceivably, if he stays healthy, add an additional 2,000 points to that total. Then you're talking about 23,000 plus points. Now, how the hell do you keep a guy out of the Hall of Fame when you score that many points? Because we got all these. Remember, at one point, Tom Chambers was the only guy with 20,000 points that wasn't in the Hall of Fame. Well, now you're adding more and more guys because you can make the argument it's easier to score, so you're going to see more 20,000 point scores. So now you have, in addition to Tom Chambers, you have Joe Johnson. You have who's the other guy with 20,000 career points? Antoine Jameson. They're all 20,000 plus points. Now, Mitch Richmond, I think is in the Hall of Fame. He has over 20,000 career points. But now you're going to have DeMar DeRozan. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you he's not a Hall of Famer, but I mean, it's going to be hard to justify a guy who could conceivably, if he stays healthy, score 25,000 points. How the fuck do you keep him out of the Hall of Fame? But then you have to ask yourself a question. Was DeMar DeRozan a more impactful player than, say, Anton Jameson or Tom Chambers in their primes? But anyway, next in the draft, I think he was 10th, is Brandon Jennings. Now, Brandon Jennings had a hot streak coming into the NBA. He was drafted out of La Modica, Roma, Italy, to the Milwaukee Bucks. And he had an up and down career from what I could mostly tell, you know what I'm saying? But he started off hot. I think in just his 7th pro game, he scored 55 points or something like that. But, after the hot start, he became becoming more and more of a journeyman player. Spent 4 years with the Bucks, then 3 years with the Pistons, and then briefly played overseas, then with the Magic, then the Knicks, the Wizards, and then he had one little brief stint with the Bucks again back in 2018, and that's pretty much been it. And to be honest with you, how old is he now? 34. I doubt he ever played in the NBA ever again. Do you have Terrence Williams? And, he hasn't played in the NBA for a while. Gerald Henderson, the son of former NBA player Gerald Henderson. Henderson steals the ball. Played 8 years in the NBA. Tyler Hansborough out of North Carolina. Hasn't played in the NBA for quite some time. And just going down the list of this draft here. Drew Holiday, 17th pick of this draft out of UCLA. Now, of course, plays with the Philadelphia 76ers, won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. Ty Lawson, out of North Carolina, drafted by the Timberwolves. I remember him, but he was drafted by the Timberwolves, but then traded to Denver. His best years were at Denver. Jeff Teague, Darren Collison, Omri Caspi, I think his name was. Omri Caspi, who was the first Israeli player drafted. Taj Gibson. And then after that, it sort of falls off. But yeah, you can see why I picked this draft. Patrick Beverley, the 42nd pick. Danny Green. And I'm just trying to see if there's anybody that's notable. Patty Mills was in this draft. He was the 55th pick out of St. Mary's. And, of course, Patty Mills has been a very productive role player. And that's about it, man. So, yeah, that was one of the more productive and more significant drafts. It doesn't get mentioned much with some of the other drafts over the years. You could make an argument. I could have put this draft higher. You could definitely make that argument. But the 2009 NBA draft, to me, number 8 as far as drafts is concerned. But tell me what you guys think.